Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. It is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. We are in October, second week of October. I am trying to get this put up on Facebook. And, we used to be so fast at this, do you remember? Because it used to be so easy. And then they keep making it more complicated. It's like you got to poke here and do this and do that. And it's
Everything.
so
That's why I want to wean myself off of social media. Everything is extra hard work, or this algorithm language. I could barely speak English and Spanish, and yeah, it's just too much. It because it's busy keeping us busy in things other than ourselves. That's,
Hmm.
that's all it's about. It's not a fluke. To plan. Good morning, mi gente. Buenos dias.
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to get I'm a hot mess here this morning. Goodness. All right. So I am the badass Buddha, Lori Monaco, coming to you from a chilly but very pretty southern Connecticut, where the leaves have started to change and it looks so pretty. It went from like literally green leaves like days ago, and then all of a sudden they're like changing. It's just so funny how that happens. So I'm actually considering taking a little drive up Route 7, which goes from Connecticut to through Massachusetts up to Vermont. Even I think it actually goes to Canada, just to see what the changes are. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how my weekend goes. But it is chilly here this morning, but it feels fabulous, nice and crisp and clear. So good morning, Gladiator Guru.
Good morning, Badass Buddha. Yes, Vermont has the most beautiful foliage. I like to tell people that it is New England because it is where I'm from. and But Vermont does have, like, if you pull up autumn foliage, the first pictures you'll see are the ones of Vermont. So good
Oh
luck
yeah.
with that. And yes, they change in its perfect timing. If only humans would learn their timing, then their success would always be right on time. And I'm talking about health wise. I'm talking about carrying joy in your heart, being grateful. Because if you look at anything, when they built a city on concrete and then they abandon it, nature always wins.
Yeah, that's true.
It always wins.
Yeah.
Who are we to think we're better than that? So yeah, just to witness the majesticness of fall and then see it all come alive in spring on its own. It's divine. And we fail to like really be in the audience, cheering it on, so shame on us. But yes, good morning, Badass Buddha. Fall's my favorite season. I can talk about it all day.
What do you drink? What are you drinking this morning? We haven't talked about that in a while. Shame
No,
on
but
us,
you
because
took
that
the
was
words,
supposed to be the thing.
you took the words right out of my mouth. I used my Viva cup today. My Vida, Frida Kahlo. Says at the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think we can. Frida Kahlo. And I was thinking, we haven't done the coffee thing on Tuesdays anymore. Today I'm drinking Café Pilon with coconut milk. And I didn't get to foam it because I was in a rush, but it's still delicious. And you?
I'm having Cafe Bustelo. I thought about you this morning. I ran out of my normal coffee and I had this sitting in here. I think it was like a backup. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it. I'm going to think of Gladiator Guru when I'm making it. And I switched back to black because I am bound and determined to get back to my former eating plan, because I cannot stand how I've allowed myself to eat things that I really shouldn't be eating. And part of that is the black coffee piece, because I've noticed that when I do put stuff in my coffee, I tend to be hungrier, it seems. So I don't know, maybe I'm just monitoring myself. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but it seems like no matter what I put into the coffee, I always seem to not be able to control what I'm eating. So more water.
That's funny.
Cafe Bustelo.
Okay.
Not so bad. It's not so bad black. It seems okay.
But it's funny because when I drink
Strong.
coffee, I don't want to eat anything. My relationship with coffee is every time I drink it, whether it's in the morning or 5 times a day, it's a love affair. Like we're meeting for that quickie, you know? And that's what coffee is to me. So I don't like crackers or bread and butter like most of my people's likes it. I don't cannot eat when I drink coffee, like 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. So coffee is my diuretic. I don't need anything with it. So it's funny that you say it tends to make you want to eat more. It's funny how different we all are, yet the same, huh?
I don't mean so much when I'm drinking the coffee. Usually in the morning, I don't need anything with my coffee either. Sometimes in the afternoon, because it's like associated with like sitting down, having a cup of coffee with people, having some cake or something like that, I might get hungry. But it depends. If I'm sitting outside and I just want a hot cup of coffee, that works. I don't need any to eat anything. What I mean is that I've noticed that if I put certain things in my coffee, actually just about anything in my coffee, by the time like a couple hours later, I'm hungry. But I, you know what, really, it's probably not the what I'm putting in. It's probably more the caffeine. And then when I start to come down, my body starts to want food or something like that. But I've tried to pay really close attention to it. It seems that I have a little bit more control when I have it just black versus when I do put something in it. So,
Mhm.
you could say it's psychological or whatever, but I didn't want it to be that way. I wanted to have stuff in my coffee because I don't like drinking black coffee. But that's what I've been trying to pay attention to.
It's
So
too adulting, and we don't like that hood. It's ghetto. It's
adulting.
already ghetto. And I think when I attempt to drink black coffee, it is. It reminds me that I must adult, and I don't like that. It's like
Yes.
I rebel against everything with that part of life. Um, but yes, we will do our intentions.
Yep. We'll say good morning to Milagros and Iritza. Happy to see you both.
Hola,
Happy that
buenos
you're
días,
here.
mujeres encantadas.
And Desiree's in the house. Look at that. We haven't seen Desiree in so long. Yay. We're so happy that you are here. Have you been? Bring us up to speed on everything that's going on with you. And so good morning. We're happy that you are here. For those few people that are on so far, we would love for you to share the room. Let everybody know that you are here and that you would like to share the information, because it's going to be really valuable information. As usual, we're going to have Karen Sammer back on, continue our conversation on breast cancer awareness. And today we're going to actually talk about complementary and alternative care as a separate or in conjunction with conventional treatments for breast cancer, and the empowerment piece behind it, and the overwhelm piece as well. It'll be a very interesting conversation today. And there's Edith. Good morning, beautiful queens. Yes, you are still in Puerto Rico. Yes, very nice. I hope you're enjoying yourself,
Me
because
too, because it's funny about
girl,
Iritza. I tell her, you gotta learn how to disconnect, Iris. Enjoy where you're at, enjoy where you're at. So she hasn't called me. So I needed to ask her something, and she wouldn't call me. And I said, hey, what? She goes, well, you told me to disconnect. And then she starts telling me about all these people that she has been talking to outside of Puerto Rico. So I was like, so you took the advice I gave you so literal that you only applied it to me. How does that work? And she still don't call me. But okay, you're on the show. Good morning, Edie. Our Lillian will be coming on a bit late. She was in a meeting. She's wrapping it up now with work, so then she'll be on quickly, and maybe we can get her in the beginning or something. But we really need to get this out.
Okay, so we'll set our intention quickly. We'll do our mantra. If Lillian comes on in that interim, then we'll get her on real quick, and then we'll get Karen on. And then if she doesn't come on when we're done, we'll get Karen on, but then we'll have Yulitza jump on real quick. So, all right, let's set our intention as usual on Viva Cafe con Leche. You set your intention with us, and your intention is to be intentional,
and grateful.
Set your intention for whatever that may be today. Set it multiple times today. Set it now, set it later, change it, whatever you want to do, but always go with
Gratitude.
absolutely, because that sets the tone and shifts the energy. All right, let's do our mantra. Say it loud, say it proud. Here we go. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I'm spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I am beyond authentic.
And I keep it real.
All right, all right. Listen, I love you. I wish
you
I
said
could jump on
Iritza instead of Lillian.
Oh, I said Iritza? Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry, Iritza. You know what, Iritza, when are you coming back? Are you going to be there like what's today, Tuesday? You're going to be there on Thursday? If you're going to be there still on Thursday, we should have Iritza jump on quick just to see how she's doing. But yes, I meant Lillian. I'm sorry. So Lillian's still not here. So let's bring Karen on. We'll say our good mornings to her. And then, like we said, when Lillian jumps on, we'll give Lillian the few minutes to speak. And we'll get this conversation rocking and rolling. There she is.
Hola.
Karen is back. Welcome, Karen.
So happy to be here. Thank you so much.
And I want to make sure that everybody knows, let's put this up. You do have your free webinar tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, Healthy, Positive, and Pretty Through Breast Cancer. So if you know anyone that is dealing with breast cancer, has in the process of recovering from breast cancer, or is a breast cancer survivor, it's probably across the board. Or maybe if you're an individual who's not there yet, but still would like some information, because, sometimes it helps to have information before we even have to deal with something like this. Definitely check this out. It's a free webinar. Yes. We're going to also put the clickable link into the chat so that you can, into the comments, so that you can click right on it. But make sure that you share it with somebody that that might be going through this, because that's actually one of the things we're going to talk about today when we talk about complementary and alternative medicine versus, not versus so much, but traditional treatments for it, and then complementary treatments. But then also the conversation of when you get breast cancer, like how often people just come up with so much information that it's overwhelming. So we'll have a conversation on that. So let me see if I can get that separated so that we can put in the comments. And if you want to connect with Karen, this is how you do so. This is her email. But you can also go to yourpoweryourhealth.com and you can read all about what she does. And there you go. All right.
Thanks, Lori. I must say, Karen, that I love the way you describe things.
I do too.
I love the tone of your voice. I love the expressions on your face. I believe that you, by some divine entity, you were brought in to do exactly what you're doing right now, because you put people at ease. And I don't have the breast cancers. I didn't go through what you went through, which is why you teach what you teach. But you still put me at ease. Like, it would be no problem to say, you got to listen to Karen, because I would 1000% send people your way that are dealing with that, because of the way you address it, the way you gift sound of your voice and the information that follows. So thank you.
You're so kind. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Guru. It is important to feel comfortable with the conversation, because it is for generations, it's been so taboo to talk about your female body parts. And really, that's what's really been very detrimental. I think that's one of the many things. I won't go into the misogyny that's in the whole process of going through this, but the conversation has to be open and honest, and you have to be able to talk about the ugliness of it and what happens when your body is going through all those changes. And so, no, I do really appreciate you saying that. I'm glad that I can be that voice of whatever for people that need to hear it, and can be a support for people, and let people know that it's, it is something that you can come through.
Well, yeah, because I've listened to many people talk. I've listened to many people speak about how they're sacred healers and all this kind of, and I'm like nails on a chalkboard. And they got like 1,001 people on their lives and everything, and I was like, I can't do it. I have like I have to hear something, and it has to soothe me, and that's what you bring to the table.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
My sister's on,
Good
Connie.
morning, Connie. Good morning, Rob Roditis. I agree with you. And especially when it comes to, first of all, the C word in general is, when people hear the C word, it just puts them into a completely different place. But especially breast cancer, because there's such an emotional connection. Not to mention the fact that we know that breast cancer can be very dangerous. And the other piece of it is that even with getting it caught, getting it taken care of, you have, out of all the cancers, there's a higher risk of it returning, and then even returning with a vengeance. And so there's all these pieces, there's all these things that are running through a woman's head. And again, men do get breast cancer. But it does help, because when they know that you really do care and that you have answers for them, because that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, is the fact that when we had started to talk about this on Thursday, that when you're given that diagnosis, you're like in a fog, like you're not even hearing all the information that's coming in as the doctors are speaking to you. That's why it's always good to bring somebody with you that has that clarity, that's listening, taking notes. But here's the other thing too, and I noticed this when my first husband developed brain cancer, but any cancer, people come out of the woodwork and they got to tell you what they think you should do. This is the treatment. This is what I recommend. Try this, try that. And then also, once you set the tone and say, I really want to use like natural, I want to, not that I want to use in conjunction with, or just purely natural. And then once you put out I want to go more natural approach, it's like everybody comes out of nowhere with information, whether it's valid or not. And it gets to be so overwhelming that you go into a period of shutdown, because it's just, you can't bring the information in anymore. So can you talk a little bit about that, Karen? Like maybe start with your own experience, if you saw that, and then how you handle that when you're working with individuals in general with their health, whether specific to cancer or something else.
Yeah. So you're right. People do come out of the woodwork and have an idea of what to do because they knew somebody, or maybe their own experience. But usually it's they knew somebody or they've read something somewhere. I had a friend, she passed away a few years ago from breast cancer. We were very close. She helped me through my process a great deal. And she was at the point where, it was clearly terminal. And so she wanted to do as much, take the natural approach as much as she could. But she really did have to rely on conventional medicine because she had gotten to that point. And so she told me one time, which I thought were very wise words, broccoli juice isn't always going to do it. It's not always going to be just broccoli juice. And I got that, because I was also trying to help her give her some ideas on how to fortify her body. And so she was pretty much like, all right, I got this, leave me alone. And I got that message because she had been hearing it from, she had a huge network of people, and she was very involved in the advocacy for breast cancer survivors and metastatic. She's the one that really opened my eyes to the fact that metastatic breast cancer is the only breast cancer that kills. If it stays contained in the breast, it can be treated and managed. It's once it leaves the breast, it becomes, the devil.
And doesn't that normally happen after you get breast cancer and they fix it, and then you go through remission, and then when the metastatic comes back, that's when it comes back?
Yeah. Typically, if you get a recurrence,
yes, because
it would be considered probably metastatic because it's showing up somewhere else. But also, sometimes the treatment can contribute to the higher risk of developing another type of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You put all those chemicals in your body, and you put that radiation all over you. I mean, I had radiation burns for months after I had the radiation. So I can't imagine what that was doing to my body. I just can't. I just can't imagine. But and it, you know, it changed the texture of the breast. It changes it to, it makes it thicker and it makes it bigger, and it makes it shaped differently a little bit. Yeah, I had surgery, but it was a small lump, so the disfigurement is not that, you know, there isn't that much of it. But the radiation caused different, you know, different things to happen in my body. And but you know, who knows down the road? I'm 12 years out, but who knows if 20 years, 30 years, whatever, something else doesn't come from it. And then, you know, I had a heart attack, and I had a heart attack 5 years ago. I do believe that one of the drugs, because one of the drugs that they gave me because of the type of cancer it was, had a very poor cardiac profile. You know, they were monitoring my heart pretty significantly. They were doing echocardiograms probably every 3 months while I was going through the treatment for a year. And unfortunately, I didn't get an enlarged heart from it. But who knows if it didn't degrade my cardiovascular system, because the type of heart attack I had nothing to do with heart disease. So you know, there are side effects. There's nothing comes without a cost.
Yeah.
So when correct. When you're dealing with these chemical remedies, if you will, for this kind of a condition or any other kind of condition, there's always going to be a payoff. And so, unfortunately, it took that experience for me to realize that if I ever have to face it again, I will look at different alternatives, you know, alternative types of treatment that might not be so, might not have such a negative impact on the rest of my body. So, I mean, there are many things that you can do. You can do for prevention. I mean, you can certainly, or at least minimizing your risk. You know, I live in New Jersey. I think I've talked about this before. I live in New Jersey. There's a lot of cancer risk in New Jersey because of all the chemicals that we have. You know, and anybody who lives on this planet now, unless you're living in a blue zone that is completely isolated from the rest of the world, you're subjected to the water pollution and the air pollution and the EMFs and all of this stuff that is bombarding us every single day, every minute of every single day, that our bodies were not designed to withstand.
Right.
So,
it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
And I think that we got to be careful, because we don't want to go off topic with it so much, because you can go totally down a rabbit hole with that. But that is something that we do have to consider, is that, you know, especially with breast cancer. Okay. Breast cancer, we know that most individuals in the past, especially, this is what they would say, that there was a genetic predisposition, that you had the genetic markers, that it ran in your family. But over the last few years, they've realized that that's not necessarily true. You can increase your risk if you show genetic markers, but people who have absolutely no genetic markers have been found to get breast cancer. And then, of course, that says, well, then now you have the genetic markers because you've just passed it down, whatever. But we have to really look at the bigger picture too. And when you start, here's the other thing is, and we'll just leave it at this, because we want to talk more about the alternatives and how they interact with conventional. But when you're diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, any autoimmune disease, really take a big picture, take a step back and look at your life. Look at what's around you. Look at your family history. Look at what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're exposing yourself to, and really consider all of those things. Because, I mean, I've watched this transpire over the years, because I've taught pathology for so many years. I mean, I started teaching pathology in 2002. So 20 years ago. And I've seen a huge shift in the amount of pathologies that people have. You know, we used to do a project, and they would be a pathology family tree, and they'd start with themselves, and then they would work their way up the family tree. And I would see students who were in their 20s have nothing listed. And now they have like a huge amount of things listed of pathologies. And then they go up the next line up, you know. And we've become very accustomed to this. Like, it's okay. Like, oh, well, you have this and this and that, and you're on this.
A whole other show of the brainwashing, the plan put into place for us to consume this food, to get sick, to
Exactly.
rely on big pharma. It's all, and we have fallen into the trap decade after decade.
Right. So that's so, and that's why and you're right, Gladiator Guru, that would be a total another show, which you could have like in November sometime. But think of the big, like, as Karen's going to talk about alternatives and then the conventional treatments, we have to think about the part that we've played. Can things be reversed? I'm a big fan of, I believe that things can be reversed. I believe in the resilience of the body, but we have to, it took time to get to where we were. It's going to take time to reverse things. But you have to try, like, and that's, so did you find that when you were dealing with this, what changes did you make for yourself? And then what changes do you recommend to people when you're working with them?
Well, when I was diagnosed, I was in a pretty bad physical place. I was very overweight and all of the things, I had a lot of stress in my life. And so my medical profile was not exemplary, let's just say. It was pretty bad. So the first thing I did is, because I wanted to get my health in order so that I didn't have to deal with this again, or if I had to deal with it again, at least I was in a better place to do that. And so what I did is I eliminated processed sugar from my diet, which sounds really simple, but it ain't easy.
No, it's because we've become addicted to it.
People you are absolutely right. And everything you eat has it.
Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But everything that you consume out of a package has some level of sugar in it. And so you have to really be a label detective to be able to figure out what it is that you're eating, because sugar shows up in so many different with so many different names you don't even recognize.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, some labels have 7, 8, 10, representations of sugar on the label if you recognize the names, but they don't. Not everybody does. So eliminating processed sugar was a game changer for me. And the reason I did that is because I did some research. I didn't do a ton of research while I was going through this, because I found that when I looked things up on the internet, the only people that were posting things were the people that were having horrible problems. And I didn't want to, I was having issues of my own, and I did not want to get sucked into their stuff. So, and I didn't want to anticipate. I didn't want somebody else's problem to then become mine. I didn't want to think that, okay, well, happened to her, it must be my fate to have that happen to me. So I stopped doing that. But one of the things that I found is that sugar feeds cancer, and processed sugar is the easiest way in to really make those cancer cells come alive. So first thing I did, I eliminated processed sugar. But what that did is that eliminated all my cravings for anything else, because the food is manufactured. The manufactured food is manufactured to make us come back for more. And so that's, the way they do that is by making it addictive, and sugar is more addictive than cocaine. We know that, right?
Yeah.
So eliminating that from my diet was a huge thing. And it also got rid of all my aches and pains, which was kind of nice, because I was feeling, joint aches and carrying around all that weight, and my energy level went through the roof. Once I got through the chemo and the radiation and I started to come back, my energy level just went crazy in a good way. But so that was, maintaining a healthy diet is something that you can certainly do your body a huge amount of good with, by allowing yourself to eat the foods that your body needs to support it, and eating plenty of low inflammation or anti-inflammatory foods like vegetables and fruits, and not so much meat. Meat is kind of highly inflammatory, but not everybody wants to give up meat. That's fine. But, use it as a side dish rather than a main dish, and make your plate primarily plant-based. So.
And that's very difficult, Karen.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak as a Latina. That's very difficult. Growing up, dinner wasn't dinner unless you had meat. Like, there had to be a fried chicken, fried pork chops. There had to be a meat. There was rice. There was so much starch. So you grew up on that. And then you try to learn how to eat correctly. And then that gets boring, because our lives are full of sazon. So you got all these vibrant colors in your food, and the flavors, and the hot sauce, and the garlic, and the adobo. If you know anything about all of our seasonings, to then go to, because I've tried it, and it has been awesome for my body. The bloatness, the cramping, all of that. When I went to my vegetables that were good for me, like my cauliflower and my carrots, and I would add celery to it and stuff like that. And so that becomes difficult. Sugar is also, it's like we're drawing off of cocaine.
Oh, absolutely.
If not worse, because cocaine, you have to go to a certain distributor to get it, right? Per se. But we just got to open up the refrigerator or the cabinet, spin that lazy Susan around, and anything you choose, there's your addictive substance. So what would you, like you said, vegetables, like, I guess we would have to really make the choice of making a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
Not a diet, but to convince ourselves that, okay, so I am a Latina, and I come with a lot of sazon, in Rosie Perez's voice, and how annoying that can be, but how unforgettable that is. And that's how we got to remind ourselves that, to speak to ourselves in that. I know it has MSG. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the sazon, meaning flavor, on this one, that we need to look in the mirror and convince ourselves that, as Latina women, trailblazing forward, let's make that lifestyle change of eating healthy and eating what we create, and not buying I don't eat prepackaged food anyway, but there's many of us that have. Our children do, so continue. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that it can be an issue. It is like we're drawing off of heroin or cocaine.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I would argue that food addiction is far more difficult to overcome than a drug addiction. You don't need heroin to stay alive. I mean, you may feel like you do it when you're in the throes of it, but you do need food to stay alive. Your body requires food. So making those choices is much more difficult than not going. And I know I'm oversimplifying drug addiction. I don't mean to do that, but it is that, your body does have to use food. So you have to be able to regulate that intake and pick and choose the foods that are going to be the most beneficial for you. But once you are able to overcome that withdrawal, and the physical withdrawal probably only takes a few days. I mean, a few miserable days, because depending on how dedicated your body is to the sugar consumption, you could go through some significant challenges there. But once you get through it, it's like a cloud has been lifted, and this whole, like, this big weight has come off your shoulders, and then you can really make the choices that are going to be the most beneficial for you. And so when you because inflammation is the root of many diseases, and cancer is one of them, if you can consume an anti-inflammatory diet, that will help you to not only overcome what you're going through, but also it will help you to prevent future occurrences and other diseases. There are so many other diseases that it helps you to prevent. So keeping your body cool, keeping it not inflamed. Now, inflammation has its place, but you don't need often are in a state of chronic inflammation, which is, it just makes your body a host for all kinds of opportunistic disease. So it's really important to maintain that healthy diet. Drink plenty of fresh water, like all of the stuff that we're told over and over again that we need to do, but really take it to heart so that you can, if you have, just because you have a family history of having, various cancers. By the way, my family did not have breast cancer. I was the first one in my generation, in any generation that I'm aware of, to have breast cancer. And then I had a sibling and a couple of cousins that were diagnosed after me, but I was the first one, and we're all in the same generation. I was the first one. So family history, no. My mother's generation did not have any cancer that I'm aware of. They died from various other things, but cancer wasn't one of them. So not there. But you know, as we go through generation after generation, and we're constantly consuming all this commercially made food, that's where we're degrading our genetics, I think. So we are now starting the family history because
I truly believe that. And when I say about going holistic, I don't mean, see, I'm not a fan of any pill.
Right.
Whether it be a pill for like my severe sciatic nerve or something, I'll wait throughout the day until I can't take it anymore. Or sometimes I'll take it just so I could sleep better. Like I went all day with the pain. And so I'm not a fan of medication. I think that they give you one pill because they know you're going to need another pill to combat whatever. This pill's not, it's not doing what it's supposed to for the ailment they gave it to you, but it's destroying something else in you. And we just go along taking all these different pills because the doctor said so, which makes us sick and dependent, so dependent. So when I say use the holistic approach, and to this day, my granddaughter's going to be 20 years old. And she was the first one in the family at 6 years old to get the worst type of leukemia. And, you know, through a lot of prayers, she did start chemo shortly after, but rubbing Vicks.
interesting.
You know, and it's just so simple. I created my own Vicks when my husband was battling ALS, and he always suffered upper respiratory infections. And I would rub that Vicks on him twice a day. If people came over more, like if we had a cluster of guests that day, then I would clean out his nostrils and everything, and then I would put the Vicks and I'll rub it in. And he never suffered a cold in the whole 6 years. He had ALS. So that's what I mean about the holistic approach. I don't mean, yeah, people are going to come out claiming to be holistic, but they still got pills.
Yeah.
And how do you make pills? You got to put something to make it a pill form, and then you add a little bit of the medication. So then we're taking all that. I don't got time for that bullshit. I think we got the citric acid in oranges, you know, the potassium in all, and the leafy greens and the kale. I think we need to learn the language of Mother Nature. Absolutely. With the foods that she produces for us. Absolutely. And how it heals our body.
Absolutely. I am 100% with you, because I mean, we're supposed to eat from nature. That's the way the food chain works. We're supposed to eat from nature. And when you interrupt the process of your body doing what it does best, your body has one job on this planet, and that's to stay alive. And it's going to do everything it can to do that. And if you give it the proper tools, it can do that for a long time.
It becomes a samurai. What?
Yeah. Exactly. So it's really important to consume the right foods, to consume the right information, to manage your stress, because that's another thing. Stress is a huge contributor to disease, the disease state in our bodies. It causes inflammation, and it changes the molecular structure of your cells. It has a huge impact on every aspect of your life. So, and we live in a chronic state of stress. So it's really important to make sure that you manage that as much as you can.
How do you do that?
If you keep that level down, if you keep that stress level down, and you maintain an anti-inflammatory diet, you're going miles beyond what most people will do to keep their body healthy and safe and in the best possible condition, so that it is not a hospitable host for disease or, you know, cancer cells or any other kind of opportunistic cootie that comes along. Yeah.
I 100% agree on that, because our bodies are designed. We have specific cells in our system. We have specific white blood cells that go after cancer cells. And cancer isn't something that just comes into you. It's a mutation of the cell. So it's a cell that used to be yours, but doesn't look like yours anymore. And then the body recognizes that, okay, it looks kind of the same, but I don't think it is. And I'm going to go after it. And then as we age and as we eat crappy and as we just go about our lives and have stress, we have less of those cells available. They don't work as well as they used to. That's why children are so resilient. Now, childhood cancers, that's a whole separate entity. But overall, if you notice, most cancers don't occur until after a certain age. It's because we have worn down our immune system. And just like Karen was saying, just a simple dietary change of just going anti-inflammatory, taking those foods out that are known to be inflammatory, and then giving yourself that space and grace to be mindful, practice mindfulness, and reduce stress with things like breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, because then you check in with your body. That's the other thing, is we ignore things for so long. And then when we get them, we're like, oh, this is inconvenient, I'm just going to take this. Instead of saying, what's going on? Like, maybe I do need to rest. We're never in that state. And so when you're really good about, not controlling stress, because that'll stress you, it's managing it. Looking at things from a different perspective too, of saying, well, maybe I don't need to worry about that. What was it? Irma Bombeck was the one that wrote that book, right? Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, because that was her talking about her, part of it was her cancer thing, right? It was the fact that when she got her diagnosis, she realized you can't sweat the small stuff. It's not worth the stress.
But I think, Karen, would you, do you have a program that will guide people who have not lived in that way?
Yes.
Because it's easy to say everything that the badass Buddha said is something we need to put into practice.
Right.
But how would you guide people who are unfamiliar with that there? Because it is a 1,000 steps to the first change in your life.
True enough.
So, like, people who are fixers, who like to be in control of things, people who are, let me use better words, acceptable words, people who lack self-esteem, self-trust, people who are so insecure that they're filled with envy, and that's already eating away at you. So how would you guide these people to make that lifestyle change to where they're learning how to accept their bodies where they're at and make the change for it to be better? By accepting, I mean get to know it, where it's at, so that you can then take the proper steps to learn how to do that mind shifting to where you're thinking positive and where you're making those lifestyle changes. Like, once you say, okay, I have to do this, and get an accountability partner, like, how would you guide these people to follow through? Because that's the biggest thing. Even for me, I fall short all the time, is the accountability to follow through and not go right back.
Yeah, breaking those, retraining the brain and breaking those
Retraining,
habits.
yes, changing those habits. So our life is one habit after another. Most of what we do is automatic pilot. We don't even know that. We don't even, because it's so automatically just one process after the other. The important thing, one of the steps that I use when I have a 5-step program, and one of them, the first one is mindset. So we have to get in the right mindset, and really it's about how you talk to yourself, because many of my clients come to me after having failed over and over again at whatever they tried to do, and to lose weight or to get their health in order, get their numbers down, whatever it is that brought them to me in the first place. I'm not their first stop. I'm hopefully their last stop. Yeah, but because they can change things at the root. So you want to make sure you get your mindset right, but habit changes. There's a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Amazing book. You ought to read it. If you haven't read it, I listened to it on audio. I've probably listened to it 5 times already. But what he says is, you cannot just eliminate a habit. You have to change a habit, because if you eliminate it, nature doesn't like a vacuum. So if you just get rid of a habit and don't replace it with something else, it's going to come back.
Yes.
Because those neural pathways in our brain are pretty deeply entrenched. As we get older and we've been doing the same thing over and over again, it's like a rut in a road. Your tire's going to find that rut every time until you make another rut. And that's what you want to do with a new habit. So changing up your habits and identifying, and you don't eat the whole elephant at one time. You have to do one little tiny thing at a time. And small incremental changes are less painful and much more sustainable. And you just pile them one on top of the other. And a lot of times if you link habits with some, with each other, then you're more likely to be able to sustain those habits. So those are things that I teach my clients how to do. We talk about nutrition, which is important, and a lot of people don't really understand what is nourishing versus what is crap that they're putting in their body. But it isn't the only thing that we talk about. It's it's mindset, it's nutrition, it's self-care. Women are very bad at self-care.
We really are.
We are. Yeah, we take care of everybody else's self.
We put ourselves on the back burner. They have the audacity to get upset when other people put us there. But just before we go further, I just have to say, love the analogy. The elephant in the room. We had a whole show on that. There's this elephant in the room, and how the hell we're going to get to the other side of us? Yeah. And you eat it in increments. You think,
I don't want to eat the elephant.
Yeah,
I like elephants. I don't want to eat them.
You can imagine the elephant would be a big puffball, a big salad. I mean, visualize the hugeness of an elephant, and that is things that you have to change and mindset. And Badass Buddha talks a lot about. I personally believe that if you feed your spirit and you nourish it mentally, emotionally, then you could nurture that ego that has you being impulsive. And what brings impulsiveness? Comfort eating.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Running to get that extra cup of coffee and then not ordering it correctly, and they gave it to you regular, extra sweet, extra light, and you're gonna drink it anyway because you paid for it, and that sets it again. So, I mean, we can call it whatever it is. What it is, we gotta find the technique that works for our personality.
Yep.
And get on this, because you know what? In these times of uncertainty, there's nothing more important than your health.
Yeah. Oh God,
absolutely.
yeah. That's the biggest wealth right there. That's why. And it's also very when I was spewing all that stuff off before, that's because I've had years of training with this stuff, But when I was in private practice full time and my office was located in Bridgeport, I used to see some really interesting things when people would come into the office. Like they would come in with their babies that were like 2 years old or 1.5, drinking a bottle of chocolate milk or strawberry milk, sometimes even soda. And I would be like, just like, you've got to be kidding me, because I wasn't brought up that way, but they were brought up that way. And when you have habits that are going generational, it's really hard to take a step back and say, okay, this is not okay. And I have to retrain. And then we think, but I like the way this food tastes. I like the way thinking that might be the only way that it's cooked, the only way to prepare it. There's no other way to do it. And we make these assumptions, and then we just say, oh, it's too challenging. I can't do it. Rather than looking at culturally and saying, I still love these foods. Can I make them a little better for me? Or maybe not eat them nearly as much, maybe have something in substitute. I mean, I'm Italian, there are alternative ways to make some of these Italian foods that are not necessarily as bad for us as the typical American Italian diet, because then that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, Italian
that's a whole nother conversation, because my sister was in Europe, and she's like, the food is so different over there. I didn't get her friend didn't get bloated. And so there's definitely something up with our food. So, but all of these things we have to, number one, become aware of. And number two, admit that it's possible. That's another piece, is that a lot of times we don't want to believe that these foods are bad for us. We don't want to believe that there could be crap in these. We don't want to believe all that, because we're like, how could that be possible? That our food supply is not healthy for us. Like, how is this possible? And so that's another mind shift that we have to. That's another
I think you're giving too much credit. I think with today's society, we're so used to being busy that we get so exhausted and put ourselves last. So when we come home, we get lazy. We take the frozen pizza bites and everything else out of the fucking freezer, and then we call it dinner. We sit down and smile, and we have a happy meal. Yeah. And I think that's the whole purpose of keeping us busy and where we're at, that we got to work more and rest less, and then less time with the family. So there's really no true teachings. Now, Badass Buddha says something. My question to you, Karen, do you teach that? Do you have a class on teaching how to properly prepare something that maybe we're used to? Like, let me tell you something. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would love a vegan burger, I would have said, you're crazy. But they're just as delicious when they're made properly.
Yeah.
And
you got to be careful with those vegan burgers, though. But we'll have that's a conversation for another day.
Wrapped up in the lettuce. So what I'm saying though is like, do you teach? Is there something that also teaches people how to cook with flavor, with sazon? Because I don't like bland food, like at all. I won't eat it. I won't try it. I don't even ask me. Then you know what? Then I guess I'm gonna be fat all my life because I just can't. What's the point of living if you're gonna eat like a rabbit? I'm not a rabbit.
Spices are good.
Huh?
Spices are fabulous.
Spices are very good for you, and it's really just a matter of using the spices that you like, because there are a lot of cultures that have very vibrant, very spicy, very flavorful foods, and to your point, culturally they have been prepared differently than what I would recommend. You know, the frying and what have you. But even
I don't like fried foods.
Even excuse me, even generations ago, your grandmother may have made those foods, and they probably were not as harmful to you as they would be being prepared today.
I
Because
agree.
of the ingredients, because of the way they're prepared, because your grandmother did not use refined oils to fry her food.
They use lard.
Exactly. And while I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat meat or any of those products that are derived from meat, that isn't for everybody necessarily. But the fact that they were using products that were not refined, it's the refining process. It changes the molecular structure. They use high heat to make these things, and it's the preparation or the manufacturing, not even preparation. The manufacturing of the food is much different than it was back in the day. But so you asked me a question: do I teach people how to prepare food? I do not. Okay. What I do is I make suggestions on how they can make substitutions. I have recipes on my website that people can go in and do whatever they want with, and they're free to anybody who wants to go on them and try them out. I recommend, what I do is I do recommend eating primarily plant-based. That doesn't mean that you have to go full-on vegan. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying your plate should be almost all plants, but a little side, if you want meat, a little side dish, not a gigantic half a cow in the middle of your plate with a couple of peas on the
Or the
side.
elephant, half an elephant.
Yes, exactly. Well,
I'm
not sure how you prepare elephant, but
I think that was great. You saw what Chanel wrote: onions, garlic, pepper, celery, carrots, the most wonderful base for all foods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I love seasoning. I love seasoning. And I don't like salt, but I love the seasoning. So yeah,
But you can use that. You can use that seasoning on foods that are not necessarily meat.
Oh yeah, I use it on my salad. I
Yeah.
actually season my lettuce and everything because I make my own. I just squeeze lemon and lime into it. I don't use any dressing. So I season that bitch up like it is the most delicious cheeseburger I'm gonna eat in a minute. Yeah.
Good for you.
Because that's how I get to like my taste buds. Then I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is good. It's about tricking yourself into believing that this is the right life change for you until it is.
Yeah. Well, so tricking, I prefer to say you're moving in a different direction, or you're expanding your horizons, because you don't want it negative. So our subconscious hears the words that we say or think, you know, and it doesn't know fact from fiction. So when we're tricked, we're duped. We don't like that feeling necessarily. So so I'm saying that perhaps we you know, identifying we're expanding our horizons or something like that, where we're identifying different ways to use the spices that we're so familiar with and that we're so comfortable with and that we really like, you know, and using those spices in your food in different ways, using it on quinoa, like season up some quinoa. And you made a face. Do you not like quinoa?
Oh no! Every time I eat it, it makes
Bothers
me
you.
nauseous. So it's not. I must
It's
be
not for
allergic.
you.
But there's so many things that are like quinoa that you can try, that like we have so many different alternatives now that we never had before. And it's just a matter of trying them and see what works best for you,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
You said something that was actually quite key, Gladiator Guru. When you were describing us coming home from work and just throwing the the bagel bites or whatever into the oven and then sitting down and using them as dinner. And what you're right, because what we've become a society of convenience, and the convenience is killing us. And we've systematically, purposeful or non-purposeful, whatever, that's another story for another show. But it's just easier. And so we're so tired, we're always running around, that what's the one piece that people just do not take the time to do so much anymore, and that is to make dinner and sit down and eat it. So we're always rushing. We just want to throw something into the microwave or the oven to heat it up quick. We sit down quick, we eat it, and then we go on our way. And we've taken the joy of think back to your memories when you were thinking about like your grandmother, or your, for those of us that are at an age, all of us are at an age where when we think of our grandmother, that was a long time ago. And my grandmother was the epitome of the Italian, like she would be cooking all day on Sunday. We were there every other Sunday for that 5-course Italian Mediterranean meal,
Family meal, yeah.
and it was, but it was part of the, like, we would all show up. She would be doing most of the cooking, but people would be in and out of the kitchen. Everybody be talking. No TV would be on, nothing, and we would just sit and eat and enjoy ourselves. And we're talking like the 70s and early 80s. Nobody was overweight, and we ate a lot, nobody was overweight. It was just because we knew that day was completely, that was all we were going to do that day. We were going to get there in the morning, we go to church, we leave for New York, we get there in the morning, we're there all day, and then we come home. And then you come home and you go to sleep. You didn't eat anymore, you didn't take a snack, that's just the way it was. There was like the lifestyle included the prep, the camaraderie. And we don't do that anymore. Even when we show up for meals nowadays, like when we're inviting people over, we are cooking, but there's still stuff that's partially processed, if not completely processed. We're sitting down, we're overeating, we're eating stuff that's just like way too, whatever. And so you brought up such a good point about that, because we just have to kind of say, oh, well, I don't have time to make the dinner, I don't have time. You can make the time. Like, that's because it's not important to you.
Good, because it's our choice and change of mindset. And I think Karen, thank you for teaching that. I think it has to be Lori, you should do a course on that, because you with your experience with all of that. I think we really need to put it out there, because cancer is taking a lot of us. It is taking a lot of mothers, a lot of sisters, a lot of daughters. As I don't know the statistics on men, that's for someone else to cover. I cover women.
And I know you said you have a hard stop, so
I do have a hard stop at 9. And it's 1 minute to 9. But before we leave, do we have the justa? Lily, just couldn't. But I just wanted to remind the people that are still on, if you can go to, that's the gala. It's October 22nd, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. But if you go to givebutter.com/ATC 2022, you can either purchase a ticket for the gala in Winter Park, Florida for $125. You can donate a ticket for $125 to the women of domestic violence in the area of Winter Park, Orlando, whether they're a victim or a survivor, so that they may attend. Or you can make a donation to the cause, because all proceeds that we make at Ajusta Tu Corona at this 5th annual gala goes to Help Now of Osceola, which is a domestic violence shelter. So anything you can give, it will be a great blessing for a cause that doesn't get the spotlight most often. We hear about it every day. Oh, that's so sad. But it happens every 3 minutes of the day. There's a woman getting beaten. There's how many women have to die before this gets taken seriously, as well as the breast cancer. So visit givebutter.com/ATC 2022. Purchase a ticket for yourself to attend this 5th annual gala for $125. Donate a ticket of $125 for domestic violence victim/survivor. You can also be a vendor at the event, or you can make a donation, $20, $30, any amount of dollars you want to give towards the cause of assisting women facing adversity.
And it is put into the comments. So you can, it's a clickable link you can put into the comments. So we know that Gladiator Guru's got to go. So we want to just thank Karen so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. Reminder that she does have a free webinar coming up tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. We also have our summit, our Her Badass Story 2 summit at 8. So you could go to Karen's thing first, then you can hop on to our thing at 8 o'clock. It's definitely something to share with anybody that you know that is dealing with breast cancer. Maybe you're dealing with breast cancer, or somebody that that just wants information or has already gone through it, but maybe wants extra information. So this is a fabulous thing. And there's a clickable link in the comments, which we will put once again in there for you to be able to register. Yes. So any last words, Karen, before we close out?
Well, I just wanted to say, Karen, thank you for coming. You know what? We get together and you're the expert on the subject we chose and you accepted to be on for the show. But yet we tend to keep butting in and adding stuff. But that's the aura you bring to the platform, where we want to ask a question or we want to share something that we've heard or experienced. So thank you for sharing that expertise and just, allowing us to share in our knowledge.
I appreciate, yeah. I love the dialogue. I think this is a great format, so I love it. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really do appreciate you giving me the time to speak about a topic that I'm very.
We missed you. We missed you.
I miss you too. We'll have to get together in person. I want to see you up close and personal. I'll give you a big hug.
I know. We keep saying that, but yes. All right.
We will do that.
Thank you, everybody, for coming on. We will be back Thursday speaking, I believe, one more conversation about breast cancer. We're going to talk about empowerment. It'll just be me and Gladiator Guru. So we'll see you then. And then next week's conversation will be with Lillian Maldonado on Tuesdays. We're going to start our domestic violence awareness conversation. So with that, we're going to say thank you for being here today. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And from the Gladiator Guru, mi gente, remember to breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.